kind of looks like I have bangs if you like don't see the clip. Okay, can we get a round of applause for the side profile? I just wanted to show off my hair because I think it looks cute. So anyways, before I even start the video, no, this is in no specific order. This is just my top 10 movies right now. So there's no theme to it. It's not going to be like, I'm not going to try and be like aesthetic and make my list aesthetic. Like if people say that they have a top 10 movie list and then they show me it and it's all like within the same genre and it's like a very certain type of aesthetic, I never believe them fully because I love so many types of movies from different types of genres. It's like, it's crazy to think that people can just, I don't know, like, what do you mean your favorite movies are just all like these aesthetic rom-coms? Like, I don't believe you. Like, yeah, I like some of those movies too. Some of them are in my list, but you're gonna see other stuff in my list too. So, there's no rhyme or reason to why they're in my top 10. They're in no particular order of how I'm naming them off, and Saltburn's not gonna be in the list. Sorry. It didn't rock my boat. I wasn't as into it as other people were. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's good. It's just not in my top 10. So, the first movie on my list is Crazy Rich Asians. Rachel Chu is happy to accompany her longtime boyfriend Nick to his best friend's wedding in Singapore. She is also surprised to learn that Nick's family is extremely wealthy, and he's considered one of the country's most eligible bachelors. Thrust into the spotlight, Rachel must now contend with jealous socialites, quirky relatives, and something far, far worse, Nick's disapproving mother. There's been a running inside joke with this movie that it's a movie you only watch when you're on the plane, and I totally get it, because from beginning to end, there are no boring parts for me. And when you're on an airplane, you want something that can entertain you the entire time, and it is a movie that just gets you right in the heart, you know? It's one of those movies where you hear the premise, Asian boy brings Asian girlfriend to meet Asian mother, and the mother's just super disapproving, and you think it's one of those comedy type movies, but it's not. It is a full-on drama. It has so many storylines within it that make it so intriguing that it makes you wonder what's going to happen next. And because I've read the books, I already kind of knew what to expect going into watching the movie. So my expectations were kind of high because of how good the movie was. And I was not disappointed. When I watched it in theaters, I was awestruck. The music, the costumes, just the whole fact that it was entirely an Asian cast blew my mind. Like, I was already a Kevin Kwan fan from reading his books, but from his books turning into a movie and him being fully in the process of directing it, it made me like super happy to hear that everything he wanted got put in it. And funny enough, I feel like I might be one of the only few people who noticed he was actually in the movie, which is something rare. And if you are wondering, it is at the very beginning of the movie, and it's the cutscene where one of the socialites overhears that Rachel is dating Nick, and then it's the cutscene where like all the relatives are on the phone going, Rachel Chu, and he's within that very heavy cluster of just Asian relatives. And honestly, it's a must-watch. The next movie on the list being Midsommar. A couple travel to Sweden to visit their friend's rural hometown for its fabled Midsummer Festival. But what begins as an idyllic retreat dissolves quickly into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. So I was really late to watching Midsommar, because when it came out, I believe it was like 2019. I was literally on a beach, and I watched it for the first time, and I went, like, the entire time, my jaws just dropped. Very early on, it is just sad after sad after sad. And it's just like, this poor girl. But over the course of the movie, things slowly start to piece together, while also you basically stayed out of the know the entire time until the very end of the movie about what's completely going on. That by the time that you realize it, it's too late for the characters. They're already lost within the world that they're trapped in as well. Like, they realize it when you realize it. And it's like one of the most in tune you feel with the character, because you feel so bad for the characters while also feeling so lost and confused as them in that moment. It is a very intriguing movie, but also super gory. So if you cannot handle seeing blood, guts, and just human body function, like human bodies, this movie's not for you. But the movie is so compelling that it makes you, like, it just reels me in, me personally. Like, I'm one of those people that analyzes a movie as I'm watching it. Like, I talk out loud to myself, if I'm by myself, obviously. If I'm in a movie, I shut up, because that's movie etiquette. So, but like, I analyze movies, and by the end of it, there were so many things that connected in my brain that I was like, oh, that's why that happened, and like, I'm a theorizer. I theorize while I'm watching the movie, and by the end of it, it made so much sense. Throughout the entire time, you're thinking, why hasn't the main character run away, right? Why hasn't she run away? And where else is she supposed to go? I'm not spoiling. This is at the very beginning of the movie. It's established from the beginning. Her family, gone. And now, where are her friends? We don't know. And so she has nowhere else to go. And finally, this cult becomes her family. That it makes so much sense. Like, there's nothing left where you're confused. And I like that about this movie. It's not open-ended. And at the end, it's such a bittersweet ending where you're like, yes, I wanted that to happen, but also I'm kind of sad, because if that were me, I would be bawling, especially if I was in the main character's position. Tears down my face. I would be traumatized to a T. Traumatized. Next on the list would have to be No Hard Feelings. On the brink of losing her childhood home, a desperate woman agrees to date a wealthy couple's introverted and awkward 19-year-old son. However, he proves to be more of a challenge than she expected, and time is running out before she loses it all. This is a controversial one. I am very aware of how controversial this movie is, just because of the uncomfortable age gap, right? Like, the first half of the movie is very uncomfortable. There's like so many enjoyable parts in the movie that at first watch, it doesn't really sink in to me, the age gap. I was just like, oh, he's 19, okay. Oh, she's 30, okay. It never sunk in until I watched it a second time, where I went, wait, this is kind of weird. Like, yeah, he's legal, but like, borderline barely, right? But the reason why I love the movie so much is because we see such a dynamic that is never fully shown in like movies before, where the woman she's like super hardly pursuing the man when he's like really introverted, and he's like, sure, but he's so introverted about it that it makes you kind of go, ooh, because it makes you really sink in, like, this is a reality. There's a lot of people that are socially awkward when it comes to dating, that it makes you go, yeah, that's relatable, because like, he's pouring his heart and soul. He's pouring his heart and soul. Like, there's a scene that I really love. It's where he takes her on a date, and on the piano, he starts playing Maneater. And the reason he sang it was purely because he paid attention to something she had said before. At a very awkward first date at a bar that he obviously was not fit to be there, because he was like in a little cute suit, and it was not that kind of bar. But the song starts playing over the speakers, and she makes an awkward joke, but that stuck with him, that she liked that song. And so, even though he had said he doesn't play piano anymore, he learned that song just for her. And that made me go, this poor boy. And throughout the movie, we see him slowly getting to know her. But the entire time it's so sad to watch, because we know that she really doesn't like him like that, and she's just in it for the money. But at the very end of the movie, it's so nice to see them just be friends, because they know that the age gap is really weird. Even they're kind of like, yeah, this is weird. And they stay friends, and they both achieve the goals that they wanted to achieve. And honestly, even though the first half of the movie is really, like, kind of awkward to watch, the ending is so satisfying to me that it's one of my favorites. It's one of those movies where it's like, it's a hard journey, but it's such a nice reward at the end that it makes it all worth it. Because we see such amazing character growth from a very selfish woman, a very introverted boy, and at the very end of it, they're both doing things that they never thought they could ever be able to do because they met each other. The next movie on my list, La La Land. Sebastian and Mia are drawn together by their common desire to do what they love. But as success mounts, they are faced with decisions that begin to fray the fragile fabric of their love affair. And the dreams they work so hard to maintain in each other threaten to rip them apart. I always see this movie as so many genres in one. For one, it's a musical, it's a comedy, it's a romance, and it's a drama. This movie, first of all, if you can't stand people just breaking out into song, movie's not for you. But I love movies, and I love musicals. There's gonna be another musical on this list too, don't worry. But this movie is so worth it to me. It is such a good watch. I beg of everyone to watch it. Like, even if you think you're not gonna like it, just give it a shot. Every time I ask someone if they have watched it and they say no, I make them sit down and watch it, because it is such a good movie. And by the end of it, they're happy, they're crying, it's a win. I love this movie so much. It shows a struggling musician. The cat just tapped my foot. Hi. Say hi, Muffin. This is my boy, my little baby boy Muffin. He is like 6 months old. He's a June baby. But anyways, the movie is about Sebastian, who is a struggling jazz musician, and Mia, who every time she auditions, she never gets a call back. And these two, out of pure odds, bump into each other and slowly start to build up on each other in a way that is so magical that you think that nothing can stop them. He encourages her to follow her dreams, and she does the same for him. That you slowly start to see them becoming a couple as the seasons pass. But obviously, struggle does end up happening. And the ending is so bittersweet that it destroyed me the first time I watched it. Because they break up. And then out of nowhere, you just see it, you leap into the future and see both of their lives. And they're not in it. They're not in each other's lives anymore. That it breaks my heart. And then she goes to his bar. He finally made his jazz bar that he'd always dreamed of making. And they lock eyes. And it is the most devastating thing. He starts playing the piano, and it's a melody that he had only played for her from years ago. And she recognizes it, and she gives him that knowing look of, I know this sound. And you just see a cutscene of them being a couple, them growing a family together, them going to a successful bar. And then it all fades away. And it goes back to reality. and shows that could have happened, but it didn't. And they're stuck in this reality of what ifs. And they're stuck in this reality of the choices that they made. And then she gets up, and as she's leaving the bar, she looks at him again. And they have this knowing look of, you're a memory I will never forget. And that broke my freaking heart! Oh my god! It broke my heart. I was devastated. Because, like, as I saw the cutscenes, I was like, oh! So they actually did get together, yay! And then I see that it cuts back to the bar, and I went, oh, that was just a cutscene. Got my freaking hopes up! Oh my god! Like, that movie was so good. The soundtrack is amazing. Just the filming as a whole is so good. And I love the color scheming of the entire movie. You can tell what season it is, just by the colors of what's going on. And everything is colored so strategically that it catches your eye on certain moments. Not to mention, I'm just a sucker for this one song. And it's basically them singing, like, what a waste of a good night. Because this was at the point where they didn't like each other. It's sort of an enemies to lover, which is why I kind of also like it. It's an enemies to lovers to strangers. This cat. But yeah, at the end of the day, I could talk on and on about La La Land. I love La La Land so freaking much. Next on the list, Howl's Moving Castle. Sophie has an uneventful life at her late father's hat shop, but all of that changes when she befriends Wizard Howl, who lives in a magical flying castle. However, the evil Witch of the Waste takes issue with their budding relationship and casts a spell on young Sophie, which ages her prematurely. Now Howl must use all his magical talents to battle the jealous hag and return Sophie to her former youth and beauty. This movie is just magic. It is so magical. There are so many ways I can describe it. It has so many life lessons in it that, for one, appreciate your youth while you have it. Because you never know when it's going to be stripped from you permanently by a witch, you know? Because we start off with this young Sophie who's very just uncontent with her life. But she doesn't do anything with it. She's going on with her life. And then she bumps into Howl. And this witch, she sees this and go, nah, that's my man. Back off, by the way. It's not her man. And Sophie's like, I don't even like him like that. And then she goes, I don't care. Poof. And then Sophie turns into an old lady. And she runs away. As she should. I would too. If I got turned into an old lady out of nowhere, I would run away. I get that. And she goes on this crazy adventure with Howl. And it's such a beautiful movie. First of all, the soundtrack is beautiful. There's this one song that I always listen to. And you know the one because it's the song that everyone plays when they mention Howl's Moving Castle. Because it's so beautiful. And honestly, the plot line, you can get a little lost in the sauce when you're watching the movie for the first time. But the second time you watch it, there are so many Easter eggs that you didn't realize from the beginning. Because the whole premise is that Sophie, later in the movie, travels back in time to tell Howl to find her in the future. And so, when Howl finds her in the movie at the very beginning, it's because Sophie, from the past, had told him to. And it is like one of those things where you go, wait a minute. Because like you obviously have no idea about this when you first watch it. So when you watch it for the second time, you go, what's that? You go, what's that? That's an Easter egg. Because his ring glows when he says it. He's like, I found you. And his ring glows. And it's like, you don't catch that until you watch it a second time or a third time. There are so many Easter eggs that you don't realize are there until you watch it. And I love just the whole idea that the fire that's fueling his house is actually his heart. I love that idea. Because there are so many moments where the fire is being very violent, but then when he's talking to Sophie, the fire just calms down. But then the second time you watch it, you go, oh, that's Howl's heart being very nice to Sophie. He likes her. And it's like, the whole movie is about acceptance in oneself, I fear. Because one, Sophie has to accept who she is. She was uncontent with her life, and then poof, she's turned into an old lady, and now she wishes she had the life back that she once had before. And then we have Howl. He kind of has a big ego because he's a very hot wizard. Many people like him. Many people desire after him. And he's aware of this. He keeps his hair blonde. He dyes his hair blonde even though he's naturally has black hair. He does all these things to keep up his beauty. That the second his beauty is stripped away from him, he has a full meltdown. He has a crisis. This movie is just all about one's look, one's beauty, one's appearance, and that be grateful for what you have. Just the animation, the music, the story, the characters. It's hard not to fall in love with Howl's Moving Castle. Next on the list, we have 10 Things I Hate About You. Kate Stratford is beautiful, smart, and quite abrasive to most of her fellow teens, meaning that she doesn't attract many boys. Unfortunately for her young sister Bianca, house rules say that she can't date until Kat has a boyfriend. So strings are pulled to set the dour damsel up for a romance. Soon Kat crosses paths with handsome new arrival Patrick. Kat may let her guard down enough to fall for an effortlessly charming Patrick. This movie, I love it so much because I relate to it so much. Of just the whole embodiment of get away from me. Boys, get away from me. Move. Because people have told me that I give off the same vibe as her. Not look-wise. I look like her sister. People tell me I look like the sister Bianca, but I act like Kat. You probably don't know this because I put on my face for the video. I have a resting bee face. Once you get to know me, you realize I'm not that mean, but I might be a little mean. But honestly, I love this movie so much because I see myself so much in Kat, where you're like, what's wrong with society? What's wrong with men? And what is wrong with the school? It makes you feel kind of like you can see yourself in her or any character because they're all so relatable in certain ways that you can kind of nitpick and cherry pick certain traits from them that make you go, I feel seen as a teenager. I love the movie so much because it's basically an enemies to lovers where she is not interested whatsoever, but slowly over time, he grows on her. But then unfortunately, she finds out that she was set up and that he was basically paid to date her so that her sister Bianca could get a boyfriend. Because, Bianca is a hoe. And she's like, I want a man, I want a boyfriend, that I'm gonna do anything to make my sister fall in love so I can get dick. So it's sad to watch them slowly fall in love when the whole start of their romance was started off as something that wasn't real. And obviously by the end of the movie, she finds out the truth. But still, he obviously by that point actually loves her, that it all works out. But it honestly, the whole reason why I love this movie so much is because you're confused by the title until the very end of the movie. For her class assignment, for her poem, she writes 10 Things I Hate About You, and it is just a poem of a list of why she is so mad at him. Let me pull up the poem.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme. I hate it. I hate the way you're always right. I hate it when you lie. I hate it when you make me laugh. Even worse when you make me cry. I hate it when you're not around and the fact that you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
Like, she's a writer. It's such a sour moment in the movie. It's so bittersweet because she's obviously rightfully mad at him. But she can't ignore all the great times that she's had with him. That even by the end of the poem, she can't she can't even lie that she hates him because she doesn't hate him at all. After this poem, she's bawling her eyes out, by the way. She runs out of the classroom, rightfully so, and he runs after her. And that is the best moment in the movie. I'm like, get her! It's such a good movie. It draws you in from the get-go. And now, for a couple honorable mentions. Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool's peaceful existence comes crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to help safeguard the multiverse. He soon unites with his would-be pal, Wolverine, to complete the mission and save his world from an existential threat. Shrek 2. After returning from their honeymoon and showing home movies to their friends, Shrek and Fiona learn that her parents have heard that she has married her true love and wish to invite him to their kingdom, called Far, Far Away. The catch is, Fiona's parents are unaware of the curse that struck their daughter and have assumed she married Prince Charming, not a 700-pound ogre with horrible hygiene and a talking donkey friend. Trolls 3. Poppy discovers that Branch and his 4 brothers were once part of her favorite boy band. When one of his siblings, Floyd, gets kidnapped by a pair of nefarious villains, Branch and Poppy embark on a harrowing and emotional journey to reunite the other brothers and rescue Floyd from a fate even worse than pop culture obscurity. And lastly, White Chicks. 2 FBI agents, Marcus and Kevin Copeland, accidentally foil a drug bust. As punishment, they are forced to escort a pair of socialites to the Hamptons, where they are going to be used as bait for a kidnapper. But when the girls realize the FBI's plan, they refuse to go. Left without options, Marcus and Kevin decide to pose as the sisters, transforming themselves from African-American men into a pair of blonde, white women. I hope you liked my list. I hope this might have encouraged you to watch some of the movies on my list if you haven't already. And if you want to write your own list, leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!